evening. You're watching The Urban Debate with me, Avni Raja. For 40 days, it was a government of just the CM Eknath Shinde and Deputy CM Devendra Fadnavis. Now, 40 days later, Maharashtra finally gets a new cabinet. 18 ministers have been sworn in the first phase of the cabinet expansion. 9 MLAs from Shiv Sena and 9 from the BJP. But this is still less than half the maximum strength of 43. However, controversy has mired the new cabinet. The induction of one controversial Sena leader, in fact, has ruffled quite a few feathers. Sanjay Rathod, who was a minister in the MVA government, was forced to resign after being linked to the suicide of a TikTok star. It was the BJP then who had called for his dismissal, and current Deputy CM Devendra Fadnavis, who then was at the forefront leading that charge. Cut to today, where he is back as a minister in the Shinde-Fadnavis government. But not just this, the opposition have raised several questions, including the delay in the cabinet formation itself. No women in the cabinet is another extremely important issue that several have raised, and of course, the inclusion of tainted ministers. So we'll get to all of that, but before that, joining me right now is Priyanka Chaturvedi here on the show. Priyanka Chaturvedi, thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking to us here on Mirror Now. You've been quite vocal about issues as far as the Fadnavis-Shinde government is concerned. But coming to this entire cabinet formation, and some of this you've tweeted about as well, what can you tell us about your issues right now?
So, firstly, Avni, I'd like to begin by correcting you to not refer to the Shinde faction as Shiv Sena. They are not Shiv Sena. Shiv Sena is led by Shri Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray, and he is not part of this government and has anything to do with this unconstitutional, illegal government that has come about by backstabbing the people of Shiv Sena, the Shiv Sena workers, Shiv Sena office bearers, and the party president, Shri Uddhav Thackeray. So this is not Shiv Sena that has formed an alliance. This is senior BJP, junior BJP forming a government, which is illegal, unconstitutional, and Supreme Court will pull them down very soon because the 10th schedule is pretty clear. Now, having said that, the cabinet also that has come, let me also tell you, their joy will be short-lived because that will also come falling down. But what it has exposed is the anti-women mindset of the senior and junior BJP team. They have absolute zero women representation in the 18 MLAs that were inducted as ministers. It took them 40 days to come up with these 18 names. And amongst those are two controversial people, whether it is Mr. Abdul Sattar, whose entire investigation into the TET scam was revealed yesterday, where 3 of his daughters and 1 son, on the basis of fake documents and fake certificates, had got into the TET exams. They have now been disqualified and barred from being allowed to give these exams again. That's one. Number 2, Mr. Sanjay Rathod. I remember Mr. Devendra Fadnavis, right from Mr. Devendra Fadnavis to Chitra Wagh, making it a big issue on how a TikTok star committed suicide, and there were some phone calls that were tapped around that time, which linked it to Shri Sanjay Rathod. We immediately, our government, Maha Aghadi government, and Shri Uddhav Thackeray immediately asked him to step down. And after stepping down, investigation also was ongoing. For them to induct him immediately, as soon as the expansion is announced, speaks and again reflects of the anti-women mindset that BJP has and the junior BJP team has. So these are the issues that prevail. And I really think that the state of Maharashtra and the people of Maharashtra are really looking through this and understanding what really is happening, that they wanted to come to power, but did not want the responsibilities of power.
Absolutely. You brought up the issue of unconstitutionality right on top, and I wanted to get to that in a bit. But since you did bring it up, obviously this issue of who is the real Shiv Sena has still not been addressed. The Shinde faction, as you would like to call it, also are claiming that they are the real Shiv Sena as well. So obviously this is an issue that only the top court can really sort out, and it will then sort of determine a lot of things going forward as well. But this particular issue has been a big bone of contention in terms of how this entire process has been going on. There has been a lot of to and fro going on about the real Shiv Sena. Just your comments and thoughts on that.
Again, I'd like to repeat and I'd like to clarify to all your audience that there is only one Shiv Sena, which is being led by Shri Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray. Tomorrow, there can be a breakaway faction of the Bharatiya Janata Party. They can go with 10 MLAs to the center and say now Bharatiya Janata Party belongs to him. Eknath Shinde ji can do that. Is that possible? Is that possible to claim an entire political party belonging to them on the basis of 20, 30 MLAs that they have with them? Or 12 MPs that they have with them? Political party is very different from a legislature party. Legislature party is very different from the parliamentary party. Shiv Sena consists of its party workers, office bearers, and various representatives of Shiv Sena. 40 MLAs of Shiv Sena leaving the party or 12 MPs showing support to that breakaway group does not make them Shiv Sena. Tomorrow he might hallucinate and he might say he wants to become the Prime Minister of India because he has 10 breakaway MPs or MLAs from Bharatiya Janata Party. So let's be very clear about this. Constitution is very clear, the 10th schedule is very clear. That if they have broken away from their parent political party as legislative party members or as parliamentary party members, they have to go into another party, failing which they stand to be disqualified and they will have to be re-elected from a new party symbol and win that election. And Supreme Court itself, if you have been seeing the ongoing proceedings in the Supreme Court,
yes,
has also put this entire route that they're taking through the Election Commission on hold till Supreme Court does not complete its hearing. So there is only one Shiv Sena, let there be no doubt, led by Shri Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray ji. Some rebellion in the ranks does not mean that they now have the political party. So let's not add that unnecessary confusion in the minds of your audience.
Okay, all right. Coming back to the cabinet itself, in fact, just a short while back, Devendra Fadnavis said that the objection that there is no woman minister in the newly formed cabinet will be addressed soon. Women will get appropriate representation in the cabinet. And he also said, talked about the fact as far as why the delay itself is being made into such an issue, saying that Uddhav Thackeray took the reins in November 2019 with 6 other cabinet members, and it took him then over 3 weeks to expand the cabinet. Your reaction?
My reaction is just one, that this is a government which has come about unconstitutionally through an engineered rebellion, funded, supported and strengthened by the Bharatiya Janata Party through various mechanisms, whether it was using central agencies, whether it was using the power of money that they have. It is obviously the richest party in the world right now, if not just the country, and on the back of the central agencies. So they have a government in place, a government which has come about unconstitutionally. The amount of days that it took them to form a government, to get the first batch of 18 MLAs sworn in as ministers, just goes to show that there is rebellion in the ranks brewing, because they were overpromised. All these MLAs who have rebelled were overpromised and underdelivered. And I'm 100% sure that there is a similar rebellion brewing within the Bharatiya Janata Party's rank and file for having to sit out as a party which has more number of seats and lesser representation in the cabinet. So this is a matter of time when it will collapse on its own contradictions, and probably the state will have to undergo midterm polls.
Right, Priyanka Chaturvedi, and this is for my own clarification, because you keep calling this cabinet unconstitutional, and fair enough, but the question really is whether in this particular case, it is a case that's being heard by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court putting the Election Commission route on hold doesn't automatically endorse the fact that this is, unconstitutional. Is it right to call it unconstitutional as long as the Supreme Court is still hearing the matter and it is going to decide on it one way or the other?
No, I call it unconstitutional, and I will repeat to call it unconstitutional. Just because, of course, the matter is sub judice does not mean that the 10th schedule is not clear. The 10th schedule is very clear that there is a distinction between a political party, legislative party, and parliamentary party. Second, if there is a rebellion in the ranks, even if they are 2/3 members of a legislative party, they will either have to merge into another party, or if they claim to be a separate faction, they will have to go into an election. what they're claiming in the courts and they're claiming to the people and confusing media, confusing your audience, confusing thousands of Maharashtrians, lakhs of Maharashtrians, is that just by the rebellion of 40 MLAs, they become the political party. That is incorrect, untrue, unchecked, and it will be disqualified even by the Supreme Court after they hear it extensively. The law is very clear. Anti-defection law is very clear. Even if BJP tries to engineer this, tries to change around it, it is going to have consequences not just on the politics of Maharashtra, it is going to have consequences across the country, because people will probably go vote in for a particular party symbol, but will end up having a Bharatiya Janata Party through arm twisting everything and arm twisting their way across. So it will do huge damage to the constitutionality, as well as constitutional morality, as well as democracy. So this, I'm very certain that this will be shot down by the Supreme Court, and it is just a matter of time.
Right. So just taking that point forward, you clearly believe that the Shinde Sena or the Shinde faction, as you also like to call it, is not going to be able to retain a separate identity, which they are so strongly trying to do right now. And do you see any sort of a merger then with the BJP before 2024?
All the elected MLAs will need to merge into another political party. They can choose any other party besides the Shiv Sena to register their rebellion, but they cannot claim to be the Shiv Sena. Okay. That is all I'd like to say. And the last but not the least, what I would want to say here is, I don't even call them Shinde Sena. I call it Junior BJP, Chota BJP, BJP Light, because it is nothing but an extended version of the Bharatiya Janata Party.
All right, that as is your prerogative. But I have to bring in the issue of Bihar, because we've seen a whole lot of drama and the parallels with Maharashtra really cannot be ignored. But I wanted to ask you on the larger picture here with what's happening, and the future of regional parties. We saw what happened in Maharashtra, the way part of the Shiv Sena completely, moved towards to the BJP. What's happened in Bihar as well, JDU completely breaking away as well. Do you think the future of regional parties is in danger?
Absolutely not. Regional parties are going to be the frontline warriors of a central government, a central party, a party at the center, which is trying to end democracy, end constitutional morality, and try to claim every single space from dissent, silence opposition voices, silence regional parties. We will not allow that to happen. We are going to be fighting this spiritedly. And if you would remember, if you would recall, JP Naddaji recently had said all regional parties will come to an end. So this is their bigger goal, that there should be no democracy in India. There should be no elected model of democracy in this country. There should be one political party, which is the Bharatiya Janata Party, which silences the opposition, which silences, stealthily manages to silence its own alliance partners, and wants to govern the entire nation. That will not happen, and regional parties come about into being by voicing the regional aspirations of the people of the state, by being the voice of their state at the center. We will continue to fight for them, and now more strongly than ever, because this kind of the way Bharatiya Janata Party's urge for power and lust for power has made it so power hungry that it can bypass all constitutional morality. We will need to fight this out, and it will be the regional parties which will be taking this fight head on.
All right, Priyanka Chaturvedi, on that note, I'd like to thank you for joining us and taking the time out to speak to us. In fact, let me welcome our other guests who are joining in at this point in time as well. We've got Asif Bhamla, spokesperson of the BJP, Dr. Raju Wagmare of the Congress, spokesperson, in fact, Manisha Kayande, spokesperson of the Shiv Sena, and Rohit Chandavarkar, senior journalist as well. Thank you all of you so much for joining us on the show tonight. Manisha Kayande, let me come to you first. In terms of the issues that has been raised by the opposition over the formation of the new cabinet of Maharashtra, if you would like to weigh in your thoughts.
Well, the formation of the government itself is the best model of deceit, hijacking a government. I mean, this is the first case in India where a government can be hijacked by somebody. And that somebody, the big power in the country, that is the BJP, the Maha Shakti, which Mr. Eknath Shinde, the so-called CM of Maharashtra, is doing. And this is the larger hidden agenda of BJP to finish all the parties. Earlier, they wanted Congress Mukta Bharat. Now they want opposition Mukta Bharat. And see the ministers, the tainted faces, and those who have backstabbed Honorable Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray. And this is what they are doing. Like examples, like all the examples, I think we all have spoken them throughout the day. Sanjay Rathod, whom they created hell of a noise after the Pooja Chavan case, and so many others. Like if you go to dig, they all there'll be heaps of things to talk about. What are their misdeeds? Take, for example, Abdul Sattar. Just yesterday, the scam was unearthed, and today he is garlanded with the ministerial berth. So, I mean, this is what people of Maharashtra and India are watching today. That how, no matter whatever you do, no matter how many ever ED cases you have, you just dip yourself into the Bharatiya Janata Party washing powder and you are whitewashed, you are clean, crystal clear as sunlight, and there you are, the minister in this Shinde-Fadnavis government.
All right, Asif Bamla, let me come to you here, and let's first just talk about the delay. What took so long? Why 40 days? Because you had the numbers, and even then, after 40 days, it's just a partial expansion that we've seen right now. All right. All right, I think Asif Bamla is unable to hear. We will just try and get that sorted out at this point in time. But let me go across to Rohit Chandavarkar at this point. Rohit, you know, the question really that I've heard from Priyanka Chaturvedi as well as Manisha Kayande right now as well, the point of it being, calling it an unconstitutional government, and that is something, of course, that the courts are going to decide. The Supreme Court, in fact, is going to decide. But whether or not the Shinde faction will be able to retain its identity going forward is also the big question.
Yes, that is obviously the big question. Of course, the matter is sub judice and everything will be decided in the court. But what I can see right now, Avni, in the swearing-in ceremony, and I have watched many swearing-in ceremonies over the last 30 years or so, is there is a certain level of nervousness that I can see. Politics has to be understood by reading the matter that is between the lines, not the obvious that you see on the screen. And what I can see and what I can interpret and kind of put in perspective for your viewers and you is that though Eknath Shinde and Devendra Fadnavis, Chief Minister and Deputy Chief Minister, are putting up a brave face, I can see there is a lot of nervousness that is there over the last few weeks about what is going to be the future of this whole enterprise that has been taken up. One of the reasons, of course, is because of the cases pending in Supreme Court and any decision one way or the other might come. The other factor is how to keep all the MLAs happy. The biggest challenge is going to be, all kinds of promises have been made to 40 plus MLAs who kind of walked away from Shiv Sena, and now it's time to deliver those promises, and they're not sure whether they'll be able to do that. Today, two factors that you must have seen. You have spoken in detail about the tainted ministers and all that has been talked about. I don't want to repeat that. But the other factor is that independent MLAs have not been taken in the initial cabinet at all. Bachchu Kadu, one of the senior independent MLAs, today expressed his unhappiness and actually told the reporter that he expects that in the very next cabinet expansion he must be included, otherwise he will have to rethink about the whole thing. So I think there is this nervousness that is creeping in. The assembly session is going to start within 4 or 5 days, 7 days, I think, and it's going to be an important monsoon session. Usually Maharashtra has its monsoon sessions in the mid of July. Now it's mid-August and it has not started. So obviously things are not as easy as Eknath Shinde and Devendra Fadnavis initially might have thought. And they're facing many challenges. That is one view that I can give you. Second is, of course, important factor is all of them are going to right now get done with the monsoon session and prepare for the municipal polls. The 14 municipal corporations, big cities in Maharashtra, and 25 district councils, Jilla Parishads go to polls. And a lot will depend on the verdict that comes out of that, because there you will see Sharad Pawar and Uddhav Thackeray getting together, maybe Congress supporting them, and there might be some kind of seat adjustment that might happen. So the first big challenge for this government, of course, the minor challenge is going to face the session, the monsoon session of the assembly. But the first big political challenge is going to come in October or November when these elections happen. And what comes out of those elections will really determine the future course. And that's where you will see whether the government is stable or it continues, or BJP retains its interest in going along with Eknath Shinde, or they go for midterm polls sometime by end of this year or next year. So that is the overall picture and overall perspective that I can see. Just one line that I want to repeat, the key words and the key line is that I see a lot of nervousness in this formation and these leaders right now as they announce the cabinet expansion, as they go for swearing in, and they are really being very cautious, not committing anything. And in case of Sanjay Rathod or in case of other ministers and all, many questions are being raised. It's going to be a tough thing for them to face the assembly session also. Nervousness is the key word that I see here. Avni.
Okay, all right. Asif Bhamla, if you would want to come in there, and my earlier question to you was, why so long, 40 days, despite having the numbers and even then only a partial expansion, managing expectations and nervousness, like Rohit was also pointing out, was that a key role why we saw this delay?
Of course, managing expectations is a very, very significant thing, especially when there is an alliance. We know there were legal hurdles also. I was hearing the Sena, spokesperson who was very upfront in saying that that the government is hijacked. Let me also put on record that it was the alliance that was hijacked by the Shiv Sena, and which is why this entire new arrangement was has been curated. Had they not done this 2.5 years back for a party which believed in the ethos and principles of Balasaheb Thackeray, who said, I would prefer to shut shop than to do an alliance with them, this would have never happened. So it was because of you, we didn't want the state to get slapped with an election. Now, coming back to the current ministry, the one that's been sworn in today, I need a little time because my voice was, was off, the audio was off, so I need to put forth my points in a very rational manner. So let me tell you this, that this is a great blend of administrative experience, ministers that is there with full fashion to deliver good governance under the leadership here by Eknath Shinde ji and our Honorable Devendra Fadnavis ji, supported by obviously the central leadership of Narendra Modi ji. So what I'm trying to say is that whatever they may say, earlier they were in a hush that you're not formulating a government. Now the government is formulating. Ab wo is baat pe nikal rahe ki there is no women representation. Please wait. Hold your horns. When you came to power in the previous MVA, you inducted 5 ministers. Where was the women? Where was the women minister that you inducted? What moral right do you have to speak lies in front of the media? There were 5 ministers you inducted. We did not object. So now, wait, have a pause. We are having an extension of this cabinet as well. And now that the parliament session is over, there were so many issues. They didn't let the parliament session to run. There were presidential elections. They've said all the wrong possible things to the Honorable President of India. They have never spared nobody. But anyways, now the government is in place, and it's a foolproof government. And I am sure. And who are they talking about? What are they talking about? A government which has got ministers behind bars for having connections with the underworld, who have got the ED and the enforcement directorate behind them. What is the Shiv Sena talking about? In their regime of 2.5 years, वो कहते हैं 3 मुंह से खाने वाली सरकार थी. When all that they did was corruption and corruption and corruption. And today you see And today they're having the audacity to pinpoint their own parliamentarian Sanjay Raut is behind the Patra Chaul ke scam case. So what, क्या नैतिकता की आप बात कर रहे हैं? पहले आप अपने गिरेबान में झांक कर देखें और अपनी कमियों को आप सुधारें. ये 2.5 साल जो आपने गंवाए हैं, आप आज सेंट्रल और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट एक कॉमन कंसेंसस में इस महाराष्ट्र की गति को जो पिछाड़ दिया आप लोगों ने, हम इससे आगे ले जाएंगे, विकास की ओर ले जाएंगे और आपको साबित करके दिखाएंगे कि ये जो संकल्प आपकी है, जो ख्वाब आप देख रहे कि सरकार गिर जाएगी, टूट जाएगी, ठीक है, अनइवननेस होता है. Every government has unevenness. In your three-party government, your own MLAs were crying on the floor of the house कि हमें NCP से फंड नहीं मिल रहा है. तो आप क्या कर रहे थे? तो there will be issues, but we will handle them with a better craft because we have a leader like Devendra Fadnavis ji, who is a master in handling all of this. He has completed successful 5 years in the last tenure as a chief minister, and who has not controlled the government from sitting at Varsha, which the previous governments has seen. He is a man who will run pillar to post to ensure the success and progress of Maharashtra and the people of Maharashtra will see this. और ये 2.5 साल नहीं, पुनः भारतीय जनता पार्टी सत्ता और सरकार में आएगी. मैं इस बात का आश्वासन भी आपको देता हूं.
Asif Bhamla, you're getting extremely agitated, and you pointed out that the MVA government, they had ministers who are now behind bars, and I agree with you on that. But that is not the excuse, or that cannot be a reason or a justification for the induction of certain tainted ministers into the current cabinet as well. It can't be that just because they did that, we can do this. It doesn't make it right to have tainted ministers. It's not just about this cabinet. I mean, it's across party lines we've seen this.
Very well.
How does he justify Sanjay
Can I
Rathod?
rebut? Can I rebut? I think this was for me. Is this question?
Yes, Mr. Bhamla, please go ahead.
Let me tell you, 2 wrongs don't make a right, and two wrongs don't make a right, and I endorse what you say. Firstly. Secondly, as far as Sanjay Rathod was concerned, he was a minister under Uddhav ji's regime, and it was Uddhav ji who fought tooth and nail to ensure that he was shown, proved and declared innocent, and the police under the Uddhav Thackeray government has given him a clean chit. Now, as far as the BJP is concerned, again, since I'm the spokesperson of BJP, that doesn't mean that I miss out on my responsibility of my alliance with the Shiv Sena under Eknath Shinde ji. But if you see under our regime of the BJP, we have senior ministers like Chandrakant Dada Patil, Ravindra Chavan, Sudhir Mungatiwar and other ministers. So there has never been a minister who has got any taint. As far as this particular minister is concerned, also, today Eknath Shinde ji, who is the Honorable Chief Minister who represents the Shiv Sena, has said that it was a clean chit given by the police authorities. And still furthermore, if the opposition feels that there's wrong, they can go to the court. They can, the courts have suspended ministers also in the past, and we have seen that. So, आपको तो न्यायालय पे वैसे भी भरोसा रह नहीं गया है, लेकिन हमें भरोसा यकीनन है. और यदि आपको लग रहा है कि वो गलत है, तो फिर it was Uddhav ji under his government, Sanjay Rathod has got a purely clean chit, and that's wide open. It's not that it's not now.
Okay, all right. Let me go across to Dr. Wagmare as well.
On the floor of the house, you can debate. You can debate on the floor of the house. The monsoon session is here. I'm sure the state and the people of Maharashtra will justify this.
All right. Let me go across to Dr. Wagmare for his opening comments as well. Dr. Wagmare, thank you for waiting by patiently. Please go ahead.
See, what we are talking about, the constitutional government and the democracy and constitution of India, these are the words we cannot use since the BJP came into the power in center. And the clear example of this, it is the Maharashtra government, the way they formed the government, the way they stole MLA, the way they gave money to them, all those things are coming into the picture. The MLA themselves are talking about 50-50 crores. They are talking about all those things that which they are getting. And top of it, if you look into the people who went from Shiv Sena to the BJP, out of that, around 17 people, those who are under the radar of ED, out of that, 5 people that's supposed to get arrested, everything was ready to arrest them. And you can see that they went over there and they became clean as clear white paper. There is no allegation, there is no FIR, there is no accusation on them, and they are totally clean. So the democracy has been murdered by the BJP in this country and in this Maharashtra. All the institution that my friend Mr. Bamla was talking about, if you see that, he was talking about the MLAs of MBA ministers has been behind the bar. But what law they are using? They are using PMLA. What is that law says? Who made the amendment in those laws? Those amendments are like that the ED is not the police, but at the same time, the ED can take anybody inside. ED can take anybody's property. ED can accuse anybody of doing fraud, and they have to prove in a court. And in that court, the ED record is only 1.5%, not even 1%. So, what kind of thoughts they are talking about? They are creating a. It's like they are holding a match. They are the referees, they are the players, and they decide that who's going to win, and they are telling people that this is a fair match is going. But people of this country, Mr. Bamla, everybody knows how the BJP is working, how they are twisting everybody's arm, how they are taking people from Shiv Sena. They have taken Mr. Jadhav from Kamini Jadhav, they are taken that another Jadhav from them. They are taking the Sarnaik and all those people. I can name everybody, and everybody was under the radar of ED. So this government and the way the BJP is tactics of happening in Maharashtra, this is completely unconstitutional government, and they cannot stay together. Just now, Mr. Mamla says that Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, but then he said that Honorable Deputy CM Mr. Devendra Fadnavis. But he did not say Honorable to Mr. Eknath Shinde. That itself it shows from the beginning that they have the differences. They just want the power. They are using the pawn of Mr. Eknath Shinde and all other MLAs. And as you know by the constitution, the 10th constitutional says very clearly, 10th schedule says very clearly, if they do not join the political party, they are going to be disqualified. And it is going to happen. They are just doing this even ceremony of swearing cabinet ceremony to show people that everything is correct. My journalist friend correctly says that the word that he said that it is a nervousness, but I can use the word confusion. They are confused by themselves and they want to confuse the people of Maharashtra and the country. See what happened in Bihar just now. Because Mr. Nitish Kumar knew very clearly that what is happened in Maharashtra, that it is going to happen to him in Bihar. And once that is going to happen in Bihar, then there will be no chance. So he took his chances earlier and he sent the BJP away. And this is what is happening in country. What Mr. BJP President said, Mr. Nadda, publicly, that no political or the regional party that it has to be survived, all the regional party has going to be finished, because that is the BJP's agenda. That is their agenda. The regional party has to be finished. That is their agenda. The Congress has to be finished. That is their agenda. That the democracy has to be finished. And that is their agenda. The constitution has to be finished. Because they don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in constitution. And that's why the largest party president can say that the regional party has to be finished. This is very cruelty and this is very insult of democracy. but who you can tell about insult and who you can tell about, because the people who are sitting in power of BJP, they don't believe in such words, they don't believe in morality, they don't believe in राजनैतिक नैतिकता के बारे में उनको कुछ पता ही नहीं है, और पता रहने के बावजूद भी अगर आंख बंद करके लेते हैं that there is a stage that you can wake up a person who is sleeping but you
Right.
cannot wake up a person who is pretend to be sleeping. So the BJP is pretend to be sleeping about democracy and the formation of the government. And that's why they put Mr. Eknath Shinde as the chief minister, because when the government will fall, it will fall on Eknath Shinde's shoulder, that they think that it will not happen, but now in Maharashtra, each and every person who understands the BJP tactics, it's happened in Uttarakhand, it is happened in Manipur, it is happened in Goa, it is happened in Karnataka. So when the people are sending the representative in power as per the democracy, constitution and the rules, and the BJP take those MLA, put together, give money, twisted the arm of ED, CBI and IT, and they take the government in their hand. So if this is called a terrorism, and I call BJP is a terrorist party, and there is an internal terrorism going on in this country, and if that has to be stopped, it's not a political party now, it is going to the people. So the every people in this country has
Right.
to come on,
Right.
and they have to wake up to save the democracy and save the constitution of this country.
All right. Dr. Wagmare, let me go across to Rohit here. Rohit, in fact, one of the points that Dr. Wagmare spoke about, who is really running the government currently in Maharashtra, is a question that has been raised by multiple people as well. Whether it is Devendra Fadnavis via Shinde at this point in time.
Government resolutions are being made right now, and it is driven obviously by both of them. I wouldn't say that what the information that insiders give is that they are both of them sitting together and doing it through the bureaucracy. One odd thing that happened last week was that Mr. Eknath Shinde had to issue an order which said that bureaucrats, secretaries to various departments of government of Maharashtra will be taking decisions in absence of ministers. That created kind of a confusion about what is going on. Of course, now today, latest is that they have brought in 18 ministers, so at least 18 departments will be taken care of, or some of the ministers will hold multiple portfolios. But the bigger challenge for them is going to be facing an assembly where many of the people who left Shiv Sena and joined them, at least 30 plus MLAs, as well as the opposition, will be kind of trying to target them. Maybe the MLAs, their own MLAs, won't target them because they expect to be included in the cabinet later on. But it's going to be a tightrope walk for Eknath Shinde and Devendra Fadnavis, because keeping everybody happy is going to be very difficult, because remember, BJP itself has 106 MLAs in the assembly, and it's not going to get the kind of representation that maybe they should have got. Another factor is that there are 24 female MLAs, women MLAs in the assembly, and today Rajya Sabha member, Lok Sabha member Supriya Sure raised this question that 50% or 49% of the population of this country is women, and not a single woman has been inducted in the initial cabinet of 18 plus chief minister and deputy chief minister, that is 20. So in that 20, there is not a single woman. The assembly has 24 women, so they'll have to include some of the female members of the assembly also. Whom to take is going to be a big question, and keeping everybody happy till the next milestone, which is, like I mentioned earlier, the municipal polls, is also an important factor. Another important thing for your Mumbai viewers is that Mumbai city has not been given the kind of representation that maybe was expected. Mangal Prabhat Lodha, who's the sitting BJP city president, is of course has been included in the cabinet. But I think that is an indication of what the BJP wants to do ahead of the municipal polls in Mumbai. It's a huge municipal corporation which has a turnover of more than many of the smaller states in Maharashtra, 37,000 crores. So
Right.
it's going to be a challenge for them to handle all these things with a mini cabinet. Part A. Part B, it's going to be an uphill task facing the municipal polls, and part C is that they will take a call on what to do next and a call on the stability of this government based on what the municipal poll results are, Avni.
All right, Rohit. In fact, I'd like to thank all our panelists for joining us. We're completely out of time. What happens in the court is going to be a huge determinant of the way forward in Maharashtra. But on that note, slipping into a very quick break, we'll be back.